Welcome to Nasdaq TradeTalks. I'm Jill Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq. Joining me for this segment, we have Jacob Martin, co-founder of Two Punks Capital. He joins me to discuss how much crypto really matters to voters in the national election and if it is a single issue or not. Jacob, it's great to have you with us. Welcome to Trade Talks. And this is so interesting. Out of all the issues that we are looking at going into the national election, there's actually some bipartisan support as it relates to crypto.
Yeah, I think for the first time, both sides realize when you've got 90 million people that have wallets or have some amount of crypto in their hands, and when you've got this level of action immediately on new ETFs, with it being mostly retail purchasers, like crypto's in the hands of people. And if the blues and the reds both care about people and represent people, they actually have to pay attention to it for the first time.
Yeah, and I think it's more beyond, okay, how's Bitcoin trading, how's ETH trading, how all these altcoins are trading. I think we're really starting to have those conversations around the market structure around it, and more important, developing a regulatory framework, which, by the way, there are other jurisdictions around the world that do have something in place. So, it doesn't seem, it's not as much about the trading where Bitcoin is and how much it's moved up or down. It's more about moving the digital asset ecosystem forward. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think when you look back over the last probably 5 years of individuals like Warren Buffett and other large institutional discussions around Bitcoin, it was all about, is it a scam or not? Is it up or down? Does that matter? But right now we're looking at users that are holding it in various locations as far as trading goes, as well as applications that are being used, even in the Telegram ecosystem or Ton, and random seeming use cases where Bitcoin or crypto are actually in play. And I would say right now, there's various tokens that people actually use for things. So again, when you're talking to politicians and they're saying, what's the use case? What's the use case? What's the use case? We can point towards several now. And I would say that's new in the last 3 to 5 years, with kind of L2s and with scalability and with the tech reaching a point where the average consumer can actually interact with it, not just buy it or sell it.
Right. And it's a good point that you bring up, Jacob, because we tend to think very Western centric when it comes to traditional banking and cross-border payments and so forth. But, around the world, these frameworks are in place because cross-border payment leveraging digital assets as a way to create these microeconomies and grow, right? So, it's already happening outside of the US, and you don't want to fall behind in terms of building that digital capital market ecosystem. The other thing is too, I think, as the community is having conversations with politicians and policymakers, rather than going, we need this to bank, we need this for payments, we need this for store of value, what does it mean towards our district? Are they going to, if you build data centers here, what does that mean for local tax revenue? Or how can you use it to help build up a local economy? I think that's how politicians tend to, process pitches, if you will.
Yeah, I think El Salvador is taking the most public, kind of intense approach to this, right? Where they're like, right now we literally have Germany selling off Bitcoin while El Salvador has purchased and is holding Bitcoin on behalf of stabilizing their economy. And so this is like an international scale thing at this point as well. Like, is the currency relevant is really no longer a question, I don't think. And when you've got this many people involved in it, even if a group of people, powerful people, don't like it or don't want to like it, the people are using it, are holding it, and are involved. And so at an international level, I think at this point, 15 or 17 of the top 20 crypto companies don't have a headquarters in the US. Like, innovation is leaving or will continue to leave if it doesn't end up with some regulatory framework that makes sense. And so it seems like people are listening. The Biden campaign is saying maybe they'll accept donations via Coinbase. Like, that's a massive step on their side. But at this point, it's honestly 10 steps behind the Republicans, when the Republicans, the GOP officially adds crypto to its, game plan for what is our party's stance on things, while also taking abortion off the table as a topic of discussion. They're just like, yeah, it's fine, solved. Like, so we're kind of past gay rights, we're kind of past the abortion conversation. And it's like, crypto is now one of the few topics that should be relevant to both sides to get right. But if it ends up being one side only paying attention to it, I think that side will get a landslide amount of votes from people that care about the topic.
So let's talk about this topic some more here. I don't think perhaps the Democrats, and again, I'm not a political reporter, this is just my own conjecture, would have put Bitcoin in the national spotlight, if perhaps, former President Trump bringing it up on the national stage, I don't think it was perhaps as much of a priority for them, and they don't seem to be as receptive to it. So I think, because of the fact a candidate put it front and center, that really got the ear of a lot of voters. And, I don't think there's enough data to discern which demographic that was. But my question to you, though, Jacob, do you think this is a singular issue, right? So if I had to ask myself, am I more concerned about abortion rights or bringing Bitcoin to the forefront, I have to weigh that out. Or is it part of a package where they're, packaging this with other issues that they think voters might, or typical demographic might vote for?
Yeah, I think if you pay attention to how, the debate recently, as far as President Trump's answer was, look, abortion's solved, we sent it back to the states, like it is what it is. He doesn't, right? Like that, the topic has kind of been, I would say, asked and answered is the right way to look at it. As far as like, it's been to the courts, it's been out of the courts, the states have the rights, it's set up the way it is. And, crypto is one of the few topics that doesn't have an answer. So I think for anyone who views freedom to transact, whether that's personal, Venmo to each other and that being taxed, or that's crypto payments to each other, or that's, companies that are utilizing crypto and having banking issues, all of these things are untenable long term, or you're going to lose an entire group of innovators and an entire group of traders as well, right? You've got traders, users, and builders, and all three are wanting to be involved here, and you can see the proof in the volume.
Yeah, you could. Well, you also don't want the innovation leaving the states and going elsewhere where there are frameworks in place. My question is, when we go back to states' rights, and I know we're kind of veering off course a little bit here, but once you start having all these multiple jurisdictions, it makes it more challenging for commerce to be done within the U.S. itself. So, I mean, what do you think in an ideal situation would be a better framework if it's split up with these 50 jurisdictions, and perhaps you can do business one way in California, but not in Texas or whatever state you want to throw in there? And, does that stifle innovation? Does that hinder business? Or do you think this is something that can be legislated at the federal level?
I think certain things have to be done at the federal level here, as far as taxation, as far as, where companies can and can't exist, because you don't want like a California LLC versus a Texas LLC. Like to go that granular would be horrific to try to deal with as a user or as an individual. So yeah, I think at the federal level, are stable coins okay or not? Like that's a very basic question that has to be answered, and you need clarity on what you can and can't do with stable coins. And so I think you can kind of run down a line of topics similar to stable coins, where it's like, if we don't have an answer on X or we don't have an answer on Y, then people are going to end up in a position where they feel like they're better off either leaving the country or doing it elsewhere, or just not doing it at all. But they've already proven they want to be involved in crypto. And so this is why I think, in the last 2 months, you've seen people that I personally know were Democrat and have voted Democrat their entire lives are currently saying like, yeah, like there's only one option here if I want to remain active in this industry, and that's to vote for whoever's going to let me stay active in this industry. And so at this point, I think the democratic process on a whole is like, what do people want? And so the Democratic Party has to adjust to that, or it's going to be a bit of a bad showing amongst a group of people that typically highly educated, highly innovative, almost always vote blue. If you lose that whole group, it changes a lot of things.
I would agree with you there, and I'm going to be curious to see what the calculus is post-election, and how even issues this was for people and what that demographic looked like. I think even in terms of continuing to build out that ecosystem, understanding that demographic could be key, just from a structural perspective, and how the industry moves initiatives forward.
Totally.
Yeah. All right, Jacob, appreciate the insight. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.